It was late in the evening when Max first noticed the cat in the backyard. He had been walking through the kitchen when something outside caught his eye. A small, fragile figure slinking through the shadows. His heart sank when he saw it more clearly. A sickly cat, looking half-starved, his fur matted and dishevelled, moving slowly with a limp. The poor thing didn't seem to know where it was going. It was clear this cat was in rough shape. Max could feel the urgency bubbling inside him. "Stop," Max muttered under his breath as he grabbed a few things and headed outside. He approached the cat cautiously, careful not to startle him. "It's okay," Max whispered, trying to reassure him. The cat turned toward him with wide, frightened eyes, but Max saw something else there too, a quiet vulnerability. The cat's condition was worse than Max had imagined. Along with the matted fur, there was a large, painful-looking wound on the side of his face. It was raw, and Max could see the redness and swelling. The cat winced when Max got closer and his heart ached. Max knelt beside him and spoke softly, trying to calm him. The poor thing was shaking. He moved slowly, gently brushing his hand along the matted fur, feeling the knots that clung stubbornly to the cat's body. "Can you get the scissors?" Max asked, his voice low but firm. He didn't want to hurt the cat, but he knew the mats had to go. They were painful and trapping dirt, possibly even infecting the wound on his face. The cat flinched again when the scissors came close, but Max was patient. Little by little, he snipped away at the matted fur, his hands working delicately to avoid causing further pain. After what felt like an eternity of trimming, he finally had the cat somewhat cleaned up, but the wound on his face still needed attention. Max wrapped the cat in a towel, cradling him carefully. "We're almost done," he reassured the little animal as he gently carried him inside. Max drove quickly to the veterinary hospital, the cat, now named Ner, wrapped securely in a towel beside him. Nar trembled as he sat in the car, clearly not used to the motion or the unfamiliar space. Max kept one hand on the towel, trying to offer whatever comfort he could. When they arrived, the staff immediately took Nar into their care, and Max was told to wait. The hours stretched on as he anxiously waited for news. Finally, a vet technician came out with an update. Nar had a deep wound on his face, likely from a street fight or some other kind of violent encounter. It had become infected, but with treatment he'd be okay. Nar was given antibiotics to prevent further infection, and the vet fitted him with a protective cone to stop him from scratching at the wound. Max watched, feeling a mix of relief and concern. He was glad Nar was getting the care he needed, but seeing the cone on the cat's head made him feel a little guilty. Nar seemed so uncomfortable, unable to groom or act like himself. Max took Nar home that day, and as soon as they were back inside, he placed the little cat in a quiet space away from his other pets. Nar was confused and scared, but Max was patient. He sat by him, offering food and soft words, letting him know that he was safe here. It was clear that life inside a house, no matter how comfortable, was completely foreign to Nar, and it was going to take time for him to adjust. Taking Nar in was no small feat. The cat was skittish, not used to being around people or other animals. Every noise, every unfamiliar smell made him tense, his muscles coiled like a spring. He didn't trust easily. But Max sat with him, fed him slowly, and over time he began to gain the cat's trust. Nar's large, hesitant eyes softened when Max was around, and for the first time in a long while the cat felt safe. Still, being in a house was a big adjustment. Nar was used to the unpredictability of the outdoors, the constant danger of the streets. Here things were more stable, but that stability came with a price. He had to learn how to trust again, and he had to share his space. But Kiko, Max's other cat, had a way of making everyone feel welcome. Kiko was friendly, curious, and never hesitated to interact with Nar. At first, Nar was defensive, unsure about this bold, playful presence in his new home. But Kiko wasn't aggressive, he just wanted to be friends. He approached Nar like a little brother, watching him and trying to get him to play. Kiko was patient, and eventually Nar started to open up. One of the first signs was when Kiko would try to help with something Nar was struggling with. Nar had difficulty understanding where to relieve himself in the litter box. Max didn't know if it was from being out on the streets or some deeper issue, but Kiko didn't hesitate to step in. The friendly cat would follow Nar around, almost guiding him, cleaning up after him. It seemed like Kiko was teaching Nar how to be a proper house cat, how to adapt to this new life. Na watched Kiko closely. He saw how the other cat did things, how Kiko played with toys, how he interacted with Max, how he enjoyed being petted. Na began to imitate. As the days passed, Na slowly began to warm up to Max. The transformation wasn't immediate, but there were subtle signs of progress. Max noticed that after a long day at work, Na would come out from his hiding spots and approach him cautiously, seeking attention. At first, it was just a tentative nudge or a flick of the tail, but Max could tell Na was starting to trust him. The once nervous cat was learning to rely on Max's presence for comfort. Max would sit beside him, petting him gently, giving him space when needed, and offering soothing words. It was clear that Na wasn't used to this kind of attention, but slowly he began to relax in Max's company. Over time, their bond deepened. Na started to approach Max more confidently, nudging his hand for affection. The trust that had once been so fragile was growing stronger. Max had always been patient with Na, understanding the cat's fears and anxieties. He never pushed him too hard. Max's consistent care and gentle touch showed Na that he could trust him, and Na began to seek out Max's companionship more. It was as though Na was finally realizing that he wasn't alone anymore. He had a safe place and someone who cared for him. Kiko also played a big role in Na's development. Kiko's playful, easygoing nature allowed Na to relax in ways Max could never have done alone. Na started to engage more with Kiko, chasing after toys and exploring the house with curiosity. He was no longer the frightened, uncertain cat that had first stepped into the house. Instead, he was becoming a confident, playful cat, one who had learned to trust both Max and Kiko. Despite the progress, the cone was still a part of Na's life. Max was reluctant to take it off because every time he did, Na would scratch at the wound on his face. It was almost as if the cone had become a safety net for Na. He felt comfortable with it, like it was a shield protecting him from the anxiety that had followed him from his time on the streets. Without it, he seemed vulnerable again, unsure of his place. "You want to get out, Na?" Max would ask, teasing the cat with a little nickname, but Na would just sit there, the cone firmly in place, his eyes soft but watchful. Max found that Na had started to seek him out when he returned home. After long days at work, Max's first greeting was always Na, who would carefully approach him, his tail flicking nervously at first, but then slowly, with more confidence, he'd nudge Max's hand or jump up into his lap. The bond between them had formed in the quiet moments, the ones where Max would sit with Na, reassuring him when the world felt too big and scary. With Kiko's encouragement and Max's patience, Na grew stronger. His confidence blossomed, and his affection for Max deepened. Na no longer hid or flinched when people came around. He even started seeking out Kiko for companionship, the two cats playing together and investigating whatever was happening in the house. Max could feel how far Na had come. From the cat that had arrived broken and wary, to the cat that now met him with soft eyes and quiet trust. It had been a journey. Na wasn't just a stray anymore. He was part of Max's family. And when Max got home from a long day, he would be met by a bundle of fur, a cat who had learned what it meant to be loved, and a cat who now had a place to call home. "You're doing great, buddy," Max would say, smiling down at Na. It wasn't just the healing of a physical wound, it was the healing of a soul that had been lost. And now, it had found its way. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Have you ever rescued an animal or watched a pet grow from a place of fear to trust? What's your story? Share your thoughts and stories with us in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories of love, resilience, and hope.